Hello all, welcome to part 2 of our tic-tac-toe assignment. So in part 1 I had shown you how we can build the basic forms and add the images to resources and have them come here, and I also showed you how you can create these images for O and X. So we also modified the board. So let's go into the code of form 1. So not here, go back. So when we go back to form design, here we have selected like we have to select the image. So the image was selected. This is the tag, we had the image, so we select the image using this. I can select blank, I can select X. So the goal was to make everything blank. Now what we are going to do is set the image from code. This is what is required. So first, for that, we are going to create our main class that will maintain the board state, and then we are going to write a function in the form that takes the state of the board and just draws out whether it's an X or 0. So we are going to maintain the state of the board in a two-dimensional array. So let's go ahead and add a new class here. Let's call it tic-tac-toe board. Machine is a little slow today. Now in this class, what we are going to do is first create a two-dimensional array. Now you can create both an int array or a string array. I think I'll go with a string array because it makes the representation quite easy. So we will declare this and we'll say the main board, I'll just call it board, is equal to, well, we'll assign it in the constructor, and then we declare a constructor where we'll set the board state is equal to new string, and this is going to be a 3x3 board. Now let's create a private function where we initialize the value of the board. We'll say initialize board, and I'll come back to this later what we mean by initialize board. We'll basically run a loop and then set values in this board. Now let us create another function called get updated board. This will return the current board state, and obviously since this will return a two-dimensional array, we have to define it that this board is returning a two-dimensional array, and this board simply returns the board, which is a two-dimensional array here, and we want this state to be private. We don't want anybody from outside or the class that is consuming the tic-tac board to get access to this variable. The only way to get that is through this function. So this way you are protecting the values, and that's why we have private and public member functions. You want to give as limited access as possible. Alright, so this will return us the get updated board. Now in the form1 class, actually one thing we should be doing here is assign IDs here. So this will be picture box 1, this should be 2, this should be 3, this should be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now there's the way we can store the picture boxes also in a two-dimensional array, but I think for this introductory video and our class, this will be a little bit too complicated. So let's just keep it simple, and we'll use individual variable names for each one of these image boxes. All right. And now we have to have a click event everywhere, right? Like every time the user clicks, we have to change the state of the board. So you double click on this and this will go to the picture one.click. Now similarly you go back, and again there are ways we can automate this, but just to keep it simple I'm going the longer route. Just double click so that we go to the click, click, go to the click, double click, go to the click, go to the code, sorry. All right. So one thing is that we are going to have 9 click functions. So whatever we want to do, the code that is going to execute when any of those picture boxes is clicked, we should put it in a private function. Otherwise, we'll have to repeat the code in multiple places. So I'm going to just write a function, private void draw board. Now one thing we'll have to do here is instantiate your tic-tac-toe board class. So we'll create a tic-tac-toe board. Tic-tac-toe board, we'll just call it main board, and then we are going to instantiate in the constructor. So the form public form one, this is the constructor of the form class. So we'll say main board is equal to new tic-tac-toe board, and this way we'll be able to access the main board object anywhere inside the class for form 1. I hope you all remember that user interface is also a class. Now what we need to do is figure out what is the value, and then based on this draw the board. So first we are going to get the value back from the main board class, and we are going to use the function we just created, which is called get updated board. Just we'll call it board is equal to updated board. Now we need to check the value one by one. So we can either do an if then else condition for every board, but what we'll do, we kind of need a mapping, because the 0 0 index represents to picture 1 and the 0 1 will represent picture 2. These are the indexes of the picture board. So let's start with the basic one. So we'll have if board 0 0 is equal to, and we are going to assign a string value. So a blank string value means that nothing is assigned. If the string value contains x, which means we need to assign an x, then we say picture box 1. Sorry, I've gave it in the wrong array. I gave it as a jagged array, but we are not using that. So what property of the picture box shows what image we need? So let us go back to the form 1 designer. We'll go back into the properties. Where is the image? It's called image. Dot image is equal to tic-tac-toe.properties.resources.x. So that's all we'll have to use here. So I think we'll have to give the full name. So there we go. You have 0, x and blank. So if it's equal to x, you should put an x here. Now if board 0 is equal to O, you just put resources.x here, and if it's equal to blank, you just put the dot blank. Now you realize I'll have to repeat this code for each picture boxes. So this is like 1 2 3 4 5 6 lines of code for each picture box, and I have 9 picture box, so which means 9 6 are 54 lines of code. That is a lot. I don't want to do that. So let's do this. Let us write another function here. We'll call it set image based on value, and then we'll take a picture box. We'll pass the picture box that we want to do, and then I'll get the value. Value will be a single string. Oops. Now when I come here, I'll just copy paste this code, and then I'm going to replace the board 0 by value. And the benefit of this will be clear in a few minutes. Now if you're really you want to do some manual work, you can keep repeating these lines, but your code is going to look too complicated than it needs to be. So now see how simple this becomes. All we have to do is set image on value, pass the picture box 1, and then call it the value. So we are doing the mapping here, and the value will be board 0, 0. Remember, we are doing row first and then column. So once it comes here, it gets the picture box, and this is wrong. I shouldn't be using the picture box because otherwise it will set the image only on 1. So I've set this value here, picture box, and then changing the image. Now this variable here will take value of picture box 1, and now I'm going to repeat this function. Now it's going to take the value of picture box 2. Of course, for the board value I need to give it a different index, and now I just have to have 9 lines of code, and that will do the function for me. Alright, let's do copy paste here. One more. So picture box 3 is the first row and last column. Picture box 4 is the second row and the first column. Remember, we are starting with an index 1. So let's call it picture box 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And oops, got an error here. And then picture box 5 is going to be the middle column, and this will be 1, 2. This will be 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2, sorry. So this way, every time we call this function draw board, it's going to set the value based on this. Now we have to repeat what will happen if when somebody clicks on a picture box. So what you want to do, you actually want to draw the board, but you also have to change the value of the board. Now what we are going to do, we'll go back to our class here, the tic-tac-toe board class, and here we are going to take a value of which row and was clicked. So it will be like, we can take the index here, int column, and then we'll have to have a separate logic based on which user ran the value, right? So here what we are just going to do is take the row, column, and just set it to just say X right now. That will be easy. And then after changing this value, we are going to return the board, and when the board returns, now this thing here, when we are updating the board, we actually should take this value as a variable, and you'll see why. Because this function is going to be called every time a board is clicked. So I should just use this as string board and just remove this. There we go. Now when you click on picture box 1, we will have to set the board state, so we'll get the new board. Board is equal to main board dot get updated board. Now what value are we changing here? We are changing 0, 0. So whatever value you have specified here, we will have to specify a mapping here. Now there are a little bit more sophisticated ways of using a hash table or a dictionary that we can use here, but for simplicity's sake, let's keep it as is. And after I got the board, I'm going to call the drawBoard function. Give the board. Alright, now let's run this. So once we are going to run this, we will see that the board will have some previous assignments because we didn't change the values that are displayed in each of those image boxes. Alright, tic-tac-toe board has come up, and what we did, if we click here, this should change to an X, and as you saw, that happened. Now in the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how we can do that, the click event for each one of those individual picture boxes, and we'd also see how we can initialize the board. Till then, I'll see you in the third video.